Well, welcome to Good Business Pays TV, the podcast where you'll find out everything you need to know about late and slow payment to small businesses. And this is one of the discussions that we're having in conjunction with Intuit QuickBooks, where we talk to small business owners about their experience of slow and late payment. And today I'm lucky to be joined by Fee, who is the owner of two businesses, actually, probably at least two, but two businesses, one B2B, one B2C. Coco Financial Services, and Lime Hut. We're going to find out all about those. Welcome to you, Fee, today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, first, an important question. Tell us about your story and your businesses. What are they all about?
Yeah, sure thing. I think it's quite confusing to a lot of people that I run two businesses. Who would be crazy enough to do that? But I guess that's me. Just to give you some background as to sort of how we got here. So I started my career as a chartered accountant in the city, a super corporate graduate scheme doing finance. And then I quit to sell chicken on a market stall, is how my parents described it. So I think they were a little bit dismayed that I'd sort of left the security of a nice corporate job and I basically started selling contemporary Caribbean street food on a market stall in central London. So that is Lime Hut. That is how Lime Hut was born. It is a street food market in Soho, B2C, and yeah, just serving up people yummy, delicious Caribbean food at lunchtime. However, whilst running that business, I kept meeting really phenomenal early stage founders, first time freelancers, early stage entrepreneurs who were very passionate about the product they'd created or the service they sold, but they lacked confidence entirely when it came to tackling their accounting, tax, finance, that sort of thing. So enter Coco Financial. Because of my accounting and finance background, I realized I could help and support a lot of people, and I chose to do that. And that is what was the genesis of Coco Financial. So with Coco Financial, we support early stage businesses with understanding their finances. We match them to accountants who fulfill their year-end taxes, VAT, bookkeeping, all that sort of thing. And we basically make it a safe space where finance is less scary.
That's brilliant. I love that story. Thank you for that. So late payment, slow payment, which is kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Must have seen it from all different angles. Have you had, particularly if you take the B2B experience, can you tell me about any particular experiences you have, obviously without naming clients,
Yeah.
of late or slow payment problems?
Yeah, so I mean, from the Coco Financial side of my business, it is something that happens occasionally. And as a small business yourself, and you're working with small businesses and wanting to sort of see them flourish, everyone is cash crunched. And so there are times that I'm supporting clients with sort of helping them manage their cash, and they're getting paid late. And as a result of them being paid late, I'm getting paid late. And I'm perhaps in a slightly unique position where I'm close to the numbers, so I know I'm going to get paid late because I'm seeing their cash crunch because of a delayed payment coming in. But I can imagine when you are not close to those Excel spreadsheets and seeing the bank statements, that being blindsided by that is quite frustrating. But whether I'm blindsided by it or not, the impact that that has on me is my ability to pay my own staff and pay things on time. And it's one of those things that makes you a little bit wary about who to work with. But you often don't understand the true financial situation until you're working already on the engagement and getting under the hood of it. So it's not something that you can control as much as you'd like if you want to work with small independent businesses. You know, the clients I work with have maybe 5 or 6 employees. They're not the HSBCs and the Vodafones of the world with thousands of employees and the ability to draw down on certain facilities in the bank very quickly when they need cash. So it's a regular occurrence. It's not a one-off. It's something that happens throughout the year. But I get to see firsthand the knock-on effect of other businesses paying them late, who then pay someone else late, who then pays them late, and then we get paid late. So it's a never-ending cycle.
So what advice do you, I guess, give yourself and your business clients in terms of how not to get into the problem of late and slow payments?
Yeah, so there are obviously things you can do to mitigate. And an example is upfront payments for at least part of your service, so that you are not, working like an entire month or for an entire project, however you might structure that, and waiting for payment 100% at the end. You it's some people maybe want to do 100% upfront, but you also want to garner good favor and make sure you've done good results, and you sometimes you want your reputation to precede you, but that isn't always the case when you're a small business and you're working with someone for the first or the second time. So as a result, I always implement this with clients if they're not doing it already, is an insistence that their terms are 50% upfront. And therefore, the remainder can be done in tranches or on completion. If that remainder is not done, that it still has a knock-on effect, but the blow is less of a blow when some of that payment has been received. One thing some of our clients have had a challenge with is if they have then ended up getting a contract with a big household name, which feels really transformative to them. Often the terms are on their terms, as in the large organization's terms, rather than the small organization's terms, because they have larger processes, they have bigger weights, and they will simply say, well, we won't work with you if you don't agree to our terms. And those terms tend to be a lot less favorable and a lot less in the interest of the working capital and all day, everyday cash flow of a small micro business. So that is where I see some of the biggest challenges, and even have done myself actually with my other business. I don't know if we're going to go into that a little bit later, but that is a huge issue. Is on paper, on your CV, having this tick box that says, I've worked with insert big shiny brand. And the reality of that is actually the terms of it are such a hurdle for us as small businesses that at times you almost think, maybe we can't accept this contract, maybe we can't accept this job. And I've experienced that firsthand.
And tell me a little bit more about, let's say, I was a big company. You're talking about the Lime Hut business, but
Yeah, now I'm talking about Lime Hut, yeah.
so I'm a big retailer or a big food company, and you want to do business with me, and it sounds like a big opportunity because I've got a lot of shelf space or a lot of shops or whatever it happens to be. But what's going to put you off? What are the hurdles that you see in doing business with that big brand? And would it put you off, or do you think you can get around them?
Yeah, so I've got examples of when it has put me off in the past when I was just getting started, and the reason being I just didn't have the cash buffer and the capital to deal with their payment terms, which are that they might be giving huge volume. It might translate into really transformative revenue for me, and my profit and loss would look incredibly juicy, and numbers that I would have only ever aspired to see. But the reality is their payment terms were very, very long. Running Lime Hut, the street food, with the B2C model, being on the street food market, I make somebody a nice jerk chicken wrap. They pay for it there and then. I get the cash straight away, or if they've paid by card, at least in the next couple days, when the payment gets released, it's pretty immediate. But these terms that I was looking at with insert large household name, uh, were in some cases 90 days to 180 days worth of payment, which I'm not saying it was this figures, but let's say £1 million hits your bank account in 6 months' time. Great. But how on earth am I paying my rent, my staff, fulfilling those orders, doing all the necessary marketing? Like every single bit of spend for just a month alone is so significant to a business within their first couple of years that to tolerate any longer than 30 days is incredibly challenging. And last year, I got approached by a large organization after I vowed I wouldn't work with large organizations again. And the deal just it made sense. But I realized I was in a position to take it only because I had big cash buffer at the time which was a result of having run this business since 2016. And I did think, gosh, if this was me when I first got started out, in the first year or two of business, sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, there was no way I would have been able to accept these terms. So part of me felt growth that, my business had grown to a point that I could, but I also felt a tiny bit of a little bit sad, actually. I thought these payment terms shouldn't be like this, actually, because I'm able to bear it. But the word is bear. I wasn't thriving. It was that I was able to muddle through that period and make sure that my staff were paid just about. And the truth is, it was a bit down to the wire when the cash funds came in. Even so, it was an exciting opportunity to work with this big brand. But if they'd have truly paid even 2 weeks later than they said, I would have felt like I was back in year one of running my business and back to the beginning of scrambling. So, yeah, I was a little bit emotional about that when I thought about it properly, because it did make me think how many other small micro businesses just starting out have had to pass over this opportunity that would have been amazing for their business because it's just not fair, and it's just not possible to tolerate.
And the shame about it is that, to get great Lime Hut food, I've got to travel to Soho rather than down the road to the shop. And that's where a lot of the new stuff and the innovation comes from entrepreneurs and innovators. And it can fail purely because people are not being fair to each other around payment terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I guess the word fair is really subjective, right? But it's just so clear as day and night. The small businesses need guarantees. They need to be paid on time. And the knock-on effect of them not being paid on time is it could be the end of their business. And all businesses have people that work within them that have mortgages and kids and bills and all these things. But the pain is felt so acutely on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis for all micro businesses that are just trying to do their best. They're not necessarily, acting like they're charities or anything like that, but or necessarily doing the Lord's work. But they have put themselves out there, created something, built a brand, are employing people, are contributing to the economy, and are the most likely group within the business ecosystem to be treated unfairly, because people know they don't have deep pockets to pursue them if they pay late as well. That's another thing. It's understanding the dynamic, because flipping back now to my other business where I've helped support small businesses get to grips with their finances, and they've maybe been in a cash crunch themselves. When it comes to prioritization of payment, it's always about who is going to stop our business wheels from moving. And that is, based on either who is a really integral member of their team, and therefore we need to keep them happy, versus who externally might have deep pockets to pursue us if we don't make this payment. And that is genuinely the decisions that get made. Understandably, they're not wanting to be in a cash crunch. Ironically, they're in a cash crunch because somebody else hasn't paid them. So it's this constant knock-on effect. But they pretty much make assessments and they think, this is a small micro business. There's 5 people working in their business. As much as we want to pay them on time and we know the effect of this, they're an easy choice as to why we're going to pay them late. So yeah, I've seen it from every angle.
You have indeed, and maybe fair is not the right word, but it is good business, which is why we called it Good Business Pays.
Yes, good business is a better term. Good business indeed.
On the positive side, I wondered if you'd seen any examples of where either yourself or one of your clients has been paid regularly on time. In other words, they can see the cash flow coming in and they can see it months ahead, and they were able to then invest or grow their business. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just to caveat, I don't want it to seem that every single payment is a horror story because to your point, yeah, there are great customers that pay on time, regularly, upfront, all the time. And that makes a world of difference to the business. And actually is probably the thing that keeps you afloat when you do have the odd naughty late payer because you've got other clients that are paying on time. What I do find is in the small business space, a lot of people are wearing a lot of hats. So you might be the founder, but you are also the head of HR, the head of finance, the head of social media, all these different hats. And as a result, I notice that some clients are just so overwhelmed that when they're paying an invoice late, it's not because there's a cash crunch, it's just because they haven't allocated the right time to get to that point. And so often they are the first people to want to automate and take things off of their hands. And as soon as they've been embarrassed once by a late payment, they request themselves, can we set this up on a standing order? Can we set this up on a direct debit? Just to take away the admin for them. And taking away that admin and burden for them enables their payment processes to be slicker. It enables good cash flow for the recipient. And so the automation of payments through whether it's recurring card payments, links to an invoice, direct debit standing orders are every small business owner's dream when a client says they'll do that because you then know the money is coming in. It's coming in on at the same time every month. You're able to predict and plan your cash flows as a result. And when you've got that steady income coming in, and the hope is that it's then a profitable margin for you, as long as you've priced right, that enables your business to grow because you have these inflows of cash coming in at a steadier and faster rate than your outflows of cash, which then enables you to say, oh, actually, maybe it's time I take off one of these hats. Now we're going to hire an office assistant. Now we're going to hire a marketing executive. And that allows you to go out and drive more business in the first place because you're not having to wear every single hat and pretend to be every single role within your business. And that takes time for the cash to build up. But once it starts and it's consistent, it's so transformative for businesses. And that's when you see people get the confidence to make a hire, to invest in the next stage of their business, to propel the business forward. You go from having a scarcity mindset where every month you're thinking, are we going to survive, to having an abundance mindset where you're thinking, how do we get to the next level? How do we service our clients better? How do we do things more innovatively? And that's the exciting bit because that's why you started your business in the first place. You started your business to propel and go forth into the world. You didn't start your business to count the pennies, chase clients with late payment letters, and constantly bang your head against the wall.
That's good advice. And finally, the use of technology. There's a lot of talk about small businesses needing to digitize, and you've talked a little bit about that in your last answer. But tools like the QuickBooks tool, for example, we're doing these interviews. How do you see those kind of tools helping small business owners? Because I don't think enough people maybe use these tools, and how do we encourage others to use them more?
Yeah, no, I honestly find QuickBooks such a great tool because you can generate your invoices within it. And as a small business owner who sometimes has to chase late payments, the great thing is they have automated responses that let people know if the invoice is not paid. And that is helpful because one, automation, as I mentioned before, it's just a task that maybe gets deprioritized if it's a task on your list of 100 things to do. So if it's automatically doing that on your behalf, it's giving a little nudge. And often people aren't paying late for malicious reasons or because they don't want to pay you. It is simply because they needed a nudge. And that nudge feature is incredibly helpful. I would say though that Sometimes when it's a bit of a generic response, it's more likely to get ignored. So you do find that having some kind of personalization in your message and template, which you can set up, which is a great feature, is really helpful to send over to clients. Because ultimately people work with people. They don't necessarily want to work with robots, but we can get the robots to help make our life easier. Equally, I mean, just the reporting functionality just enables you to sort of see your cash flows and where you're at. So you can make those priority calls, because if you have some late payments yourself and that has a knock-on effect to you, you want the information in front of you to understand what your cash flow looks like so that you can make informed decisions. And QuickBooks is a tool that allows you to see that really quickly, nice and easily. It's got these really nice visual dashboard functions. So for anyone who's maybe not financy, it's easy to interpret. But as a finance person myself, I genuinely love the tool.
Well, I picked up a couple of tips there actually because we're a QuickBooks user too. So the personalization thing, I shall be getting onto that ourselves.
Yes, do.
If we have small business owners watching this that want financial advice, where do they get it? Have you got a website or something you'd like to tell us about?
Ah, yes, we do. So I would just caveat, it's not financial advice. Have to do the little disclaimer. But if you want support getting your finances in order, getting matched to a top-notch accountant to fulfill your accounting services, we are Coco Financial, and you can find us at www.cocofinancial.co.uk.